All right, welcome everyone. I am going to get started. Let me get over to the PowerPoint. Okay. So this is going to just be a bit of an overview of culture. And to start with talking about culture, we have to talk about family. What is family? So we have this idea of traditional families, mom and dad, brother and sister, and now the more modern families, having step parents or having adopted kids or having two moms or two dads. So all of these are normal, but we're seeing kind of a trend towards these new modern families. So we have family of orientation, family of procreation, and joint families, and we'll talk about that a little later. Family systems theory, how families develop, and just general happy, healthy families. Okay, so one issue with cross-cultural studies is that they are vulnerable to ethnocentric bias. This means that the researcher who designs a study might be influenced by personal biases that could affect research outcomes without even being aware of it. So, in context, when we are looking at different types of families and conducting research around these different types of families, if there is, say, a researcher who has come from a two-parent household, they may just veer towards participants similar to them, and so not really getting the full picture. So this just talks a little bit about these kind of biases that can be in place when we are looking at cross-cultural studies, and in particular, how cultures interact with each other and how they interact in a cultural level to themselves. Okay, so culture is a word that suggests social patterns of shared meaning. In essence, it is a collective understanding of the way the world works. So you can think of your culture as your system, the kind of the scripts that you follow, scripts as in the mental schemas that you have about, going to school or going to work. Maybe if you come from a more collectivistic culture, going to school and going to work is grounded more so in providing for your family versus in individualistic cultures. It's more so grounded in bettering yourself and improving yourself. So these types of mentalities are scripts that we hold, and ultimately it's this, we have other people who hold these same values, usually interacting in the same culture that we align with. So this culture is shared by members of a group and passed down from one generation to the next. So when we're talking about America and the individualistic approach to things, perhaps if your children don't pursue the quote-unquote American dream, and instead decide to devote their lives to others, or join a missionary or a convent, this may be something that is not as seen as productive from that generation, just because of kind of the American dream of succeeding in business, in finances, all of those things. So it depends upon the culture that you grow up in, and it kind of shapes your own personal values. But of course, we have those people who go against the cultural norm, right? And which is totally okay. But they may feel a misalignment with their original culture because of this. So culture is versatile, something that you might not claim is true, but it is. It can change and adapt, and sometimes within the person during certain situations. So culture lives in all of us. It's kind of why we do the things we do, the kind of the nurturing part of our life. So perhaps if there's a traumatic incident or something happens, like World War III or something like that, then it could change our mentalities on maybe gun violence or using guns or promoting peace times, whatever it may be. It can change our views on what we originally stood for, and then an event happens and it may change into something else. So culture also has to do with sharing thoughts and traditions throughout the generations. It's cumulative. It's a culture's collective learning grows through generations. So each generation really contributes to the cultural narrative and informing the future of the culture. There are also patterns, predictive ways of behavior and thinking across members of a culture. So what I was saying before, if you come from a collectivistic culture, family, love of family and care of family is so important. In fact, when you describe emotions in collectivistic cultures, it's often how it relates to the family unit versus the individual itself. And so this is a way in which we can see the different patterns of different cultures. Okay, the concept of cultural intelligence is the ability to understand why members of other cultures act in the ways that they do. And this is why I'm talking about it, so that you can become familiar with other cultures and begin to understand how different cultures came about and how they interact within themselves and with other cultures. So, for example, older adults might find texting in the middle of a face-to-face conversation rude, while younger people often do not. Women often go topless on beaches in Europe, and women living a traditional tribal existence in places like the South Pacific also go topless. It's not seen as a sexual thing. It's more of just, this is my body. I'm gonna, I'm gonna be comfortable. While it is illegal for women in some of the United States to do so. So the U.S. has been known for being more modest, and such as with breastfeeding in public, and appropriate dress, appropriate dress for kids that go to school. And this is because we are ultimately grounded in these overarching Christian principles from the original settlers that have fed into our politics. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. This is just where it kind of roots into. But with more cultures coming about and moving to the U.S. and people from different cultures moving to the U.S., these ideas are going to change, and it's up to us to be understanding and kind to the individuals of different cultures, because they are the exact same as us. They just interpret the world a different way. So this I've already touched on a little bit. So the idea of individualism, personal feeling, and independence is prioritized. The United States is key with this. Collectivism, care, family, and the role you play in your community is your priority. You are classified by the job you play. For example, instead of being called Dr. John Wayne, he is known for his top research in his field. He is very intelligent. He has made a lot of money. Instead, in a collectivist culture, you may just identify yourself as, Dr. John Wayne. I am the person who takes care of my family and takes care of my community. My priority is my community. They are my people. So not so much about maybe their own claim to fame, but more so their claim to fame is in the community that they live in. So culture is learned, and it is acquired through teaching and learning through observation. So when we talk about the social learning theory, and we talked a little bit about it in gender, what we see in the world around us is often what we then believe in or we adopt as our own beliefs. Okay. All right, let's talk about family. We have the traditional family, which is people related by blood, mom and dad. That's kind of the just overarching traditional family. Nuclear family is a family comprised of only parents and children. And a two-person family is one that has often a mother and a father. So modern families have really taken a forefront in our society. So the common thread amongst all kind of family members in the modern family is care, commitment, and close emotional ties with each other, whether or not they're related. It's more so they build their own family. So we have single parent families. We have blended families in which kind of like a Brady Bunch family where two individuals get married and bring kids in from previous marriage or just previous life experiences. We have foster families. Some children are placed into foster care and then they become part of a foster family. We have child-free families. This is becoming huge. I, for one, have 2 dogs and 2 cats. I consider them my children, but they are not human. You know, they are animals. But I definitely base my day around, okay, am I going to take them for a walk? What time do I need to feed them breakfast? What time do I need to feed them dinner? Are they okay? Brushing them, bathing them, all those different things. So I'm still kind of centering my life around it, me and my partner, but it's not a child per se. We have same-sex couples. If you have 2 moms or 2 dads, these are becoming more and more popular as it's become, I don't want to say more and more popular, it's become more and more accepted because people have been doing this for a long time, just maybe not out in the open like it is now. So what I was talking about, what is a family? Some people think of their pets as a member of their family. I definitely think this, I think this is true, but other people may have different opinions on what defines their family. And that's kind of going back to the root of today's lesson is everyone has a different version of what they see as their family and their culture and, you know, who they are. And it's up to us to be accepting and maybe put ourselves in their shoes to see why they think the way they do. Okay. Okay. I'm going to stop right here. Oh, I'm going to go a couple slides down to what I want to talk about. Okay, so this is just the idea of the differences in North American and East Asian cultures. So in North American, we are often found to smile at greater frequency, greater intensity, while East Asians often smile at lower frequency, lower intensity. And this right here is very important. Okay, so so we have the independent versus interdependent. So independent is often identified among North Americans. Interdependent is often identified as East Asian. So in independent, we have a high arousal state. We enjoy being aroused by food, by entertainment, by you know, the fast-paced life of the American life. Often we're seen to be enthusiastic, kind of just go, 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 go for me, versus, doing things for others. East Asian is more interdependent. Having a high arousal is not seen as appropriate in most East Asian countries. So they try to kind of control their emotions, and keep it kind of more peaceful. And right here, you see the identifiers are very different. So North American, I am friendly, cheerful, funny, creative, rich, happy. While in East Asian, you identify as the role that you play in your society. I am a daughter, a husband, a student, a worker. So these are just differences. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just they're different. Okay. Now we look at self-esteem and relationship harmony. Okay. So European Americans and Hong Kong Chinese, these are the two populations that were surveyed. They tend to base their overall life satisfaction on how they feel about themselves, self-esteem, and relationship harmony or relationships. So, but this is not done in equal proportion. In European American, we have self-esteem is prioritized more than relationship harmony, which may explain why there are 50% of marriages end in divorce. So, but Hong Kong Chinese, they base their life satisfaction equally on both self-esteem and relationship harmony. And with this being said, doesn't mean that either are right or wrong, but Hong Kong Chinese, more collectivistic cultures, their marriages may last longer, less divorce overall, because their self-esteem and their life satisfaction is reliant on not just self-esteem but relationship harmony. So keeping that relationship healthy and happy, instead of oftentimes in individualistic cultures, we focus more so on keeping ourselves happy, while in collectivistic cultures it's more, how can I make our relationship a happy place? How can I make us happy? So, okay. Another quick point is the differences in emotional suppression. In North American research, emotional suppression leads to more depression. So that means, it's good that we are more emotionally inclined and, maybe more in touch with our emotions or willing to express them. This is good because otherwise it leads to more depression. While in East Asian countries, emotional suppression is not associated with depression. And this is because their culture kind of dictates how they interact with the world. And so emotional expression is not a huge part of it. So of course, emotional suppression is not going to be an issue. So this is just a way of thinking of how our culture kind of interacts with who we are. Okay. So that's it for this lesson, and I will see you all next week.